Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my Star Ocean, the Divine Force perspective. Now, again, I'm working through getting almost towards the end of the physical game copies that I got. I played this on PC. I used mainly an Xbox controller on it, and this is a weird one. I'd never done a Star Ocean game before. This was my first one. I would think that if you had played this game and not played any JRPGs before, that you'd have a pretty fun time with it. However, since I've played JRPGs and better ones, this one has some flaws that kind of throws it into some weird kind of territories. It does systems that are kind of similar to the Tales, with like AP for action points with certain kind of things that gets a little bit nutty. You have a crafting system that is vastly expensive and time consuming, and a resource sink that I'm just like, sweet Jesus. And side quests that really are just, again, on the MMO kind of side. Like, it's not completely open world, but I mean, you go to different kind of areas and shit. But for most intents and purposes, it goes for the open world kind of feel, and it just would have been better if it just honed in and crafted meaningful side quests and a better main quest. So, Star Ocean, we're in space and shit. We get introduced to Raymond, Elena, and Chloe on the Aegis, and they get attacked by a Pan-Galactic Federation cruiser, the Astoria. And it pretty much blows up their ship, and he crash lands on Astor 4, which is an undeveloped one where we get our sword and sorcery kind of stuff. And Raymond is introduced to Leticia and Albert, and the first kind of bulk of this takes up trying to find his crew. Mainly Elena first, and Chloe. So he's pretty much learning. He's got to do the sword and sorcery kind of stuff. They get introduced to this kind of Duma thing, which gets important kind of later on as we pretty much go and ape Star Trek and the Matrix towards the end of this shit. So they're going through, helping Leticia pretty much on her quest to get like these three wise men back to her kingdom, because shit's kind of going nutty, and they kind of need them to help the kingdom because we've got this disease going around. So she pretty much goes for this Midas dude, who's more of the techie, tries to find pretty much this medicine kind of one, but that's where Nina, one of the other characters, kind of pops up. She's the daughter of the dude, who then gets kind of raised by the other wise man guy, and they kind of just start gathering people, mainly Nina first, and then Midas, as they're trying to figure out and go to the capital, see what's kind of going on as things are kind of devolving with the Veil Empire. But we see that there are other races in play on this undeveloped world, and they're like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? Nina and Elena, working together, are able to create a cure for this disease kind of thing, but we see that the Veil Empire also has more advanced technology, and that shit's kind of going a little bit kind of crazy, and that the Emperor's like, I'm gonna pretty much be God, and pretty much carries on with that track for the rest of it. Raymond's brother Antonio is trying to come in with and kind of like help him out, but he's pretty much in a race against time, as we then start seeing that the Veer are pretty much kind of helping them out, these horned kind of people, and that they are utilizing this Scorpium technology. It essentially is kind of like a Borg collective, for any kind of lack of a better kind of term on that kind of thing, where they assimilate people, integrate, but normally not forcefully, but then somehow the faction gets turned into a centralist one, which goes full Borg route, and that is pretty much what happens with Baldur, the Emperor of the Veil Empire, and we then have to kind of go off-world and kind of deal with that shit. Main kind of issues is how you kind of handle leveling. So you kind of go off-world, you kind of help out some Scorpion, you get some others, and then of course in this one you can pick who you kind of play as to start to see the story kind of differences. I just picked Raven because I wanted to see kind of the space kind of stuff, but I don't think it really matters. I mean, there's certain kind of differences, but not enough for me to be like, do another kind of playthrough. I beat it on Raymond's. I didn't do any post-game because I'm like, I'm not time syncing this stuff. I got my shit and I'm good. Because you go through, you then find that this faction's kind of going nutty. Vergold, Raymond's planet is pretty much attacked by this now Borgified Pan-Galactic Federation, but they're being like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? Because when they pretty much integrated some of them and the kind of like veer part of the Pan-Galactic Federation, that's kind of where the Centralists kind of popped up, and Boulder's like, I'm gonna take this bitch! Honestly, the game should have ended after the Vergold kind of thing, but then we go into Matrix territory, and Boulder's like, I'm alive, bitch, in the Matrix! And you essentially had to then go on a quest to pretty much go into their Matrix kind of thing and kill his ass for good, and do him a sacrifice of themselves, as they are the pretty much Scorpion representative, and they were pretty much going to, like, see and observe Vergold and assess their worthiness of being integrated into the Scorpion Collective. And we've also got other kind of Star Trek parallels that the Pan-Galactic Federation has this UP3 thing where you don't interfere with any undeveloped world, and fuck that shit. It's always popping off and always having all that kind of shit. It's like, oh god damn it. But, and then we also get introduced to kind of other characters. Marielle Kenny, part of the Pan-Galactic, trying to help out Raymond. Malkia, there's a Trathan, and Nilbeth, who's kind of linked up to kind of ancient kind of stuff it looked like. That is kind of similar to the symbol drive that pretty much powers Elena that we find on Vergold, but it doesn't really delve much into that unless it's delved into the post-game content, and I'm like, I'm kind of alright. They pretty much have to go back to Astrofor and pretty much kill Boulder's ass, and his Matrix Tower fucking thing. And level designs and everything aren't really that much to write home about. You pretty much run around everywhere, use the Duma kind of thing to kind of fly sometimes, but it's kind of just a kind of their kind of system. I've seen better kind of implementations of this kind of stuff in other places, and it was just like, okay, I really don't want to do these Duma points. Upgraded everything is kind of... It's both too simple and too convoluted at the same time, if that makes sense. It's not that you can't grasp what's going on, it's just, okay, you have to figure out what you kind of want to do. Leticia has this thing that, like, if you max out this one kind of skill, you can, like, get an insane amount of XP with your party, but she's, like, weak as shit and can get fucking, like, farted at and fucking die like ain't nobody's business. But if you start doing that and getting her enough kind of armors and stuff and skill, like, and equipment to, like, get her survivability at least comparable enough, it helps you out. And if you're lucky enough to get certain kind of resources, you can get Raymond's kind of sword, crack that on his ass, and just go around almost one-shot killing certain kind of shit. It can be broken if you want it to be, but it's, you have to do some really tedious kind of work to do it. And that is where it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Where you have to... They talk about, like, gaming hours and money spent, like, value dollar-wise, which is a part that should be looked at. However, it should also be looked at of the quality of time. If I have to essentially do shit that is really not engaging and fun, but core-wise with the game, with the core loop of what the game's about, that becomes a vast problem. If you could essentially automate yourself to doing it to kind of get to the fun stuff, or you want to automate the stuff because you don't want to engage in it, that's a big problem. That's like Halo when they were doing the, like, 30 seconds of fun in the loop. You want that kind of loop of going through and getting through the levels, figuring out how to get to the next checkpoint, how to find the next kind of story bit. This, I was just like, especially with the crafting system, you have to spend your upgrade points to upgrade certain kind of skills, do an RNG kind of thing to hopefully get certain kind of things. It is fucking horrendous, the RNG you gotta deal with to get certain kind of things. I only got Raymond's and Leticia's ultimate weapons because then you gotta get everybody else up to certain kind of things, and if you don't upgrade their skill trees and their skills, you're not going to do that well in combat. And then you get pretty much locked into places that you can't really effectively grind for. And if you don't have those effective grind places, or can skill yourself up and gear yourself up to grind those places, oh god, it just becomes a slog on certain kind of things. It's never mind the fact that there's no easy way to really get the money in this game. I was going through this guide, and it's like, you really need these people to write these books. And then you pretty much take it to this one bookstore, and then after a while you'll get gold full from it for money. And you need a fuck ton of money for alchemy kind of shit to make the Philosopher's Stone, to get people to use their smithing skills to smith their best weapons. Like, thousands of gold to do that shit full. And it just, I'm thinking, this is not a fun system to deal with. Testing anything like that, it's like, oh my god. And the RNG aspects going through with it, and like, you're not getting what you need, so you have to reload and keep doing all this stuff, and it's just not worth it. Story-wise is the best kind of draw. The characters as well. Learning about Letitia as a princess, Albert being the kind of knight to protect her, and all the kind of crazy... she doesn't go completely utterly crazy, but she wants to help people out and put herself at risk. And Albert's like, fucking shit. Please. No. God. And Raymond and the others kind of teaching her to kind of balance that. Like, not to completely not do that, but to at least balance it in a nice way. Seeing Midas and Malkia kind of have their romance kind of brought back up. I kind of wish they'd delved more into her race, because Albert had lost his arm protecting Letitia as a child from falling debris and lost it. But yet, a big thing that made the wise men kind of be ejected from the Arcerian court is that they worked with Malkia to use one of her osseous cores, which we still don't really get that much of an explanation, to make a prosthesis for Albert that's pretty much a living arm, which grew with him, which was like fucking awesome. I'm like, can we get more of that kind of shit, please? And then learning about Elena, who and how her being an android and being kind of linked up with Duma, and seeing her kind of perspective as a synthetic being. Marielle dealing with going against the Pan-Galactic Federation because of them fucking with different kind of planets, and this being like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? Trying to stop what was going on with the Astoria, but people not disobeying unlawful orders, and her having to steal shit and do her own shit. Learning about JJ, the Scorpion kind of samurai dude that pops up late game that you can get. I know you can get Theo from Acer 4 as Leticia. He was a kind of interesting one, brought up in a kind of rebellion kind of coup that was supposed to take over Osiris and the Veil Empire for Boldor's fucking I'm a god dick. And that pretty much is the extent of his shit. They try and flesh it out a little bit more that he was very much affected by his wife's death due to the illness that was ravaging the planet. But it just goes to like the typical kind of JRPG stop the god, maniacal kind of god dude kind of thing. Which can be fun when like it's recognized and everything kind of going on with that. I wanted to explore more of the Scorpion because it was interesting seeing the integration. Some people having no cybernetics, some people going all cybernetic, going completely cybermind kind of things. It's like, this is interesting. The Borg don't have that kind of like depth. But the thing is, they don't go in that kind of depth for the Scorpion, which is why I go and more compare them to the Borg and Star Trek of what's kind of going on here. I don't mind Star Trek influences and everything. It's just Star Trek did it better in most kind of cases, and I'm like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? And we've got a game where we can interact and do awesome ass shit, and you can pick and choose what can go on for those people. It's like, come on, man. Now, performance-wise, I think it worked out pretty well on PC. Now, I did start it on one PC, and then finish it on a kind of better kind of system. So the graphics and everything kind of improved and all that, but there was still kind of like weirdness, stuttering that would sometimes pop up. Now, of course, I understand that PC has different kind of optimizations and all that. I don't know how well it runs on Xbox, but I wanted to move more onto the PC kind of route. Now, I wouldn't recommend this to a seasoned JRPG player, because there are better ones out there. I know you're probably like, motherfucker, this is like the 6th entry into Star Ocean. What the fuck are you doing here? I gotta start somewhere, man. There's another Star Ocean that I'm going to play, which is a remake, Second Story R, I believe. And I'm really interested in that one. It's just this one falls into the category of doing just kind of generic JRPG stuff. Like, at least they do the minimal kind of product, viable kind of product that they go for, where it's like, alright, you got your systems and everything. The combat system really was kind of stupid for me. Like, I was mainly waiting around more for my action points to be replenished and everything, and it really affected the flow of combat, because you utilize the Duma to kind of go in and do these kind of strikes and everything you're supposed to do Duma, get your action points, also utilizing Nina to kind of do it. I just did Raymond, Leticia, pretty much to keep her in for XP, Albert, and Nina. I barely utilized any other kind of characters, except when kind of forced to, and that was barely at that. And I encountered really no problems whatsoever. So, utilize whoever you want. I think it just works out to however you want to do it and what kind of play style it goes for. But playing it was kind of so-so. It wasn't the worst kind of experience I've had. I've had to fight other kind of games like Deadly Premonition, but there have been better games out there, especially action-wise. I would definitely recommend the Tales series over this, with like Tales of Vesperia, Symphonia, Berseria, Zestiria, any of those kind of ones. It has kind of a better kind of flow to it of what's kind of going on with the whole action points kind of system. And I'm always kind of like, if you're going action-y, I would prefer you just go action. Action points is kind of like, what the fuck? You could just put it on kind of spell kind of cooldowns or ability kind of cooldowns on that kind of route. Whereas doing it this way, I'm not that big of a fan of it. I don't completely hate it, but it's not my preferred kind of play style when doing this. Usually with a JRPG, I'd mainly probably prefer turn-based mostly, because that's what I've grown up with, and usually the ones that are pretty much my favorites, like Persona 5 series, like Persona 5 Royale, Dragon Quest XI, Final Fantasies, like 9 and 7, those kind of ones. But if you're going action route, try and do as Devil May Cry as possible, like Final Fantasy 15 or 16. Yeah, so this isn't a complete passer on... It's just a very defined kind of recommend. If you're into Star Ocean, I think it probably has more to you to offer, especially if you've been with the series for a while. There's probably a lot more kind of lore or Easter eggs that are like propped up in there that you'd probably get that I did not, which gives you more value add in that kind of scenario. This doesn't completely put me off of it, but if you're into like a giant gripping story, and there's better ones out there, though. If you are fine with being like, oh, tech and kind of medievally kind of fused, definitely check it out. If the kind of Borgish kind of Star Trek kind of influences intrigue you, check it out. They do a serviceable stuff with delving into the characters and the world, so not on the kind of level that I would normally be into, but at a decent, acceptable level that I would be like, okay, I wouldn't feel bad if somebody went with this. So this was definitely an interesting kind of one to go with. I could see why it would be polarizing for a lot of people, because how it kind of hits the kind of middle. It's not some kind of game that you'll be like thinking about for a while, but it's not some like in a fun kind of way or in a bad kind of way. It's not like that bad movie that you're like, holy fucking shit, I want my time back, or holy fucking shit, this is horrible, I can have fun with this, laugh at this, and call this complete utter shite. No, it's not any of those. So it's really kind of hard for that. It's that kind of middle one where you're like, I ate this. It's almost like a food thing. Like, I ate this thing, it gave me some nutrition, and I'm alright with that. It didn't make me shit myself, but it didn't make me go, I have found heaven complete. Yes, it's very interesting to go with how to describe certain kind of things. So, those are my opinions on the video game, on Star Ocean the Divine Force. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.